Look at this. A tiny green sprout, barely an inch tall, with two little leaves that look like tiny paddles. This seedling is 10 days old. 10 days. It came from the pit of a cherry you would have eaten and thrown away. I did not bury the pit whole and wait half a year. I took a small hammer I tapped in the right place. I freed the living embryo inside, and I put it in soil. 10 days later, life. If you bury a whole cherry pit, you will stare at bare dirt for 4, 5, 6 months, and maybe nothing will come up. But I will show you how to cut that waiting time to just a couple of weeks, with nothing more than a spoon, some good soil, and a little patience. And before we are through, I will share the one thing most folks do after the seedling appears that kills it, not because the method fails, but because of a modern habit of loving a plant to death. Stick around for that. But first, tell me in the comments where you live and what you grow. I read everyone. I want to know if you have ever coaxed a plant from a kitchen scrap, maybe an avocado pit, a lemon seed, a potato eye. There is a quiet joy in it, and I love to hear the stories. Now here is what most folks get wrong. They eat a bowl of cherries, look at the pile of pits, and think, I will plant these. They push the hard pits into a pot of soil, water generously, and set it by the window. Then they wait. Weeks pass. The soil dries, gets watered again, maybe molds a little. Nothing. After a month they dump it out, convinced it does not work. But the seed inside is alive. It is locked in a shell that nature designed to survive a bird's belly and a cold winter. That shell will not let the seed wake up until it believes spring has come after a long chill. In the wild, it can take a year. You can wait, or you can unlock it yourself. That is what I will teach you. I learned it from my grandfather, who kept a little flat hammer in the garden shed for exactly this task, and I have done it every July for decades. The method is simple, but every step matters. Let us walk through them. First, you need the right fruit. This is not about variety or size. It is about ripeness. You want cherries so ripe they stain your fingers the moment you touch them. Deep red, nearly black, and soft to the point you think they might split. The riper the fruit, the more mature the seed embryo inside, and the higher your chance of a strong sprout. So buy a bag, eat them with pleasure, and save the pits. Rinse each pit under cool water, rubbing away all the clinging flesh. A clean pit will not mold later, and your fingers will not slip while you work. Let them dry just a little on a towel while you gather your tool. Now find the seam. Every cherry pit has a thin ridge running around its belly, from the little stem end to the pointed tip. That ridge is where the two halves of the shell are fused. It is the weak point. If you hold the pit between your thumb and forefinger, ridge facing outward, you will see a subtle line. That is your target. Do not hit the rounded sides. If you hit the belly, you will crush the living embryo inside into paste. I did that many times as a boy. My grandfather would shake his head and hand me a fresh pit. Slow hands, he said. Slow hands, quick mind. Take a small hammer, like a tack hammer, or even the back of a tablespoon if you have a steady hand. Rest the pit on a cutting board or a stone step, seam edge up. Hold it gently with one fingertip, mind your finger, keep it to the side. Now tap. Not one hard blow, but many small, light taps right along the seam. Tap, tap, tap. You will feel the shell give a little click. Stop. Look. A crack will have opened. Set down the hammer and use your fingernails to gently separate the two halves. Inside, nestled like a tiny, pale almond, is the embryo. That is the actual seed. It may be cream-colored or faintly greenish. It is alive. Sometimes it sticks to one half of the shell. Sometimes it falls right out. Use a toothpick if you need to free it carefully. Do not break it. A damaged embryo will not grow. I have killed a dozen this way by being impatient. Ask me how I know. Now you need a small pot, maybe 4 inches across, with a drainage hole at the bottom. Drainage is not a suggestion. Plant roots that sit in water rot. Fill the pot with a light, well-draining potting soil. Nothing heavy, nothing full of clay. A mix with a little perlite or sand works beautifully. The soil should be fluffy and slightly damp before you put anything in it. Take a spoon handle and poke a hole about an inch deep, maybe a little less. Drop the embryo in, pointy end down if you can tell which way is which. If you cannot tell, lay it on its side. It will figure itself out. Cover it gently with soil, just enough to tuck it in like a blanket. Do not pack the soil down. Mist the surface with a spray bottle until you see water beading, then stop. The soil should feel like a well-wrung sponge, not a swamp. Overwatering at this stage is the #1 killer of seeds. Remember that. Place this pot somewhere bright but out of direct sunlight. A windowsill behind a sheer curtain is perfect. Direct afternoon sun on a small pot can heat the soil like an oven and cook the seed before it ever sees the light. A north-facing or east-facing window is safer. If your home is chilly, a spot on top of the refrigerator can offer gentle warmth, but as soon as the sprout appears, it must have light or it will become pale and leggy, reaching for the sky with no strength. A quick word before I go on. What I show you here grows out of the old ways the people of my country kept, where nothing was ever wasted. My family gathered the heart of it into the Home Savings Almanac, 12 small books on the old ways of the home. The kitchen and the pantry, the garden, keeping the house clean and warm. The small repairs. And 400 simple ways to waste nothing and save $200 to $400 a month. You will find it linked in the description and the first pinned comment, or you can simply scan the QR code on your screen. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. So choose a luminous spot from the start. Now you wait, but not long. In about 10 to 14 days, you will see a tiny crook of green push up through the soil. That is the stem, and soon it will lift 2 little leaves, the cotyledons. They look nothing like cherry leaves. They are thick, smooth, almost like 2 fat beans on a stem. That is the seed's emergency food supply. The true leaves, the serrated ones that look like a cherry, will come next. When you see those first true leaves, you have done it. You have beaten the calendar. I have done an experiment many times, and you should try it yourself so you believe. Take 2 pots, same soil, same light. In one, plant the whole pit. In the other, plant just the extracted embryo. Water them the same, care for them the same. In 2 weeks, the embryo pot will have a seedling an inch tall. The whole pit pot will be bare. After 45 days, the embryo plant might be 3 or 4 inches tall, with several true leaves unfolding. The whole pit, still dormant, it will not stir for months. By the time the whole pit finally decides to wake up, 6 months may have passed, and the seedling from the embryo is already half a foot tall, a handsome little tree with glossy green leaves. I have stood them side by side on my porch, and the difference is not subtle. It is the difference between waiting for a calendar page to turn and seizing the moment. Now a few honest cautions. Not every embryo will germinate. The rate is about half. So do not crack a single pit and pin all your hope on it. Take 5 or 6 pits, open them all, plant them in separate pots or spaced out in a larger container. Then you can keep the strongest one or give the extras away. The more you start, the more certain you will be of at least one success. It is simple arithmetic. Also, watch for mold and fungus. If the air is too still and the soil too wet, a white fuzz can appear on the surface. That is a warning. Give the pot a whisper of air movement, not a fan on high, just a gentle drift from a barely open window, or move it to a spot with better circulation. I once lost a whole batch of seedlings because I sealed them in a plastic bag thinking I was creating a greenhouse. The humidity turned them to mush. The greenhouse effect needs balance, and for a single kitchen pot, it is usually overkill. Another thing, when the true leaves come, You can begin watering a little more deeply, but still only when the top half-inch of soil feels dry. I check with my fingertip every morning. It becomes a small ritual, like saying hello to a friend. And never let the pot sit in a saucer of standing water. After you water, let it drain thoroughly and empty the saucer. Roots need air as much as they need moisture. The modern world wants to sell you a gadget for every task. A heating mat with a thermostat. A special seed starting tray with a fitted dome. A booklet of guarantees. I say this gently, as a guest in this fast country. You do not need any of it. What you need is a cherry pit you were about to throw away, a small hammer or a spoon, a handful of good dirt, and the willingness to pay attention. The industry has made you forget the free knowing. But a cherry pit is not trash. It is a whole tree, folded tight, waiting for nothing more than a crack and a little warmth. In my grandfather's shed, nothing was wasted. Every scrap had a purpose. There is a word for that feeling of regret over waste, matinai, but I will not wear it out. The act itself is the lesson. Every July, when cherries flood the market and the pits pile up in the bowl, I sit and crack them, and in a few days, my windowsill is awake with little green things that cost nothing and will grow for years. One more thing for the honest truth. If you want fruit, this seedling will not give you the same sweet cherries you ate. Seed-grown cherry trees are variable. The fruit might be small, tart, or sparse. But the tree itself is the gift. It flowers in spring, a cloud of white blossoms that bees love. The leaves turn gold in autumn. And if you truly want fruit, you can learn to graft a branch from a known sweet variety onto this seedling later, when the trunk is as thick as a pencil. That is a skill for another day, easy enough with a sharp knife and a steady hand. For now, just grow the tree. The grafting can wait. Let us run through the whole method one more time, tight and clean. Pick the ripest cherries, the ones that bleed color. Save the pits, rinse them clean, and dry them just a little. Find the seam, that ridge running around the belly, and tap it with a small hammer or spoon until the shell splits. Extract the pale embryo intact. Fill a little pot with light, damp soil, make a shallow hole, and plant the embryo. Mist it well, set it in bright but not direct sun, and keep the soil just moist. In 10 days, you will see a sprout. Try a handful of pits to beat the odds. Give the little tree years, and it will give you beauty, and eventually, if you wish, fruit. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what have you grown from a scrap that most people throw away? And if you try this cherry trick, snap a picture when those first leaves open and describe it to me. I read every story. It never gets old, seeing the green emerge from something that cost nothing. It is a small, quiet rebellion against a wasteful world. The best things in life do not come from a store. Sometimes they come from the pit in your hand, the patience in your fingers, and the light on a windowsill. Do not throw them away. Make them grow.